Earlier today in the Oval Office, Donald Trump looked at the assembled cameras and asked for me personally to say, "Mr. President, can you do us the honor of protecting our city?" Instead, I say, "Mr. President, do not come to Chicago."
You know, guys, I cannot for the life of me understand why we are not seeing greater pushback against the authoritarian takeover. Because we are literally in the middle of it. We have an administration that is making up stories, making up fake emergencies, all to give themselves the power to deploy military personnel to our city streets. They are trying to normalize this idea that you and I are going to be walking up and down these streets next to people in military fatigues. People who can, at a moment's notice, be weaponized against you. And I know there's some people out there that want to say you're overreacting, it's no big deal, you're being hyperbolic. But having the National Guard or military posted up on every city block, this does not evoke a sense of security like Donald Trump would have you believe. Why do you think the people of Washington, D.C. want the military to get the hell out of their city? Because it feels more like the federal government is watching over you at any given time. It is this time, it is this moment, we have to fight back against this democratic backsliding. And I think it's also important that we highlight voices who are trying to do just that. Here's JB Pritzker just calling it out for what it actually is. This is not about fighting crime. This is not about picking up criminals. This is Donald Trump waging war against blue cities. If you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
This is not about fighting crime. This is about Donald Trump searching for any justification to deploy the military in a blue city, in a blue state, to try and intimidate his political rivals. This is about the President of the United States and his complicit lackey, Stephen Miller, searching for ways to lay the groundwork to circumvent our democracy, militarize our cities, and end elections.
Yeah, and this is all the stuff that we were warning about before Donald Trump even got elected for a second time. If you look at the authoritarian playbook or the fascist playbook, you can see that Donald Trump is basically just following a script at this point. He's making up stories, he's making up fake emergencies, all to steal more power and deploy military to these blue cities and these blue states. We know for a fact that there are red states and red cities that are far more dangerous than these blue cities that Donald Trump has deployed to. Why is it that they aren't going after crime in those areas? Because it's not about crime. This is about showing force. This is about intimidating the public. This is about going after these blue areas so you can wage war against them, so you can silence dissent, so you can cause chaos in those cities. We already see that Washington, D.C., the business environment there is just getting absolutely decimated with the military on the streets. This is what the authoritarian or the wannabe authoritarian does. They look for any way possible to exert more control. And JB Pritzker does a really good job of pointing out, if this were about crime, why don't you go somewhere else? Just listen to some of the crime stats from Chicago alone, which was the reason that Donald Trump gave as to why we needed to deploy the National Guard or the military to Chicago.
Crime is dropping in Chicago. Murders are down 32% compared to last year and nearly cut in half since 2021. Shootings are down 37% since last year and 57% from 4 years ago. Robberies are down 34% year over year. Burglaries down 21%. Motor vehicle thefts down 26%. So in case there was any doubt as to the motivation behind Trump's military occupations, take note. 13 of the top 20 cities in homicide rate have Republican governors. None of these cities is Chicago. 8 of the top 10 states with the highest homicide rates are led by Republicans. None of those states is Illinois. Memphis, Tennessee, Hattiesburg, Mississippi have higher crime rates than Chicago, and yet Donald Trump is sending troops here and not there?
Yeah, and that's the exact correct question to be asking here. Why isn't Donald Trump deploying the National Guard to places like Missouri, places like Alabama, Arkansas, Texas? Houston is violent. Why don't we see National Guard down there? Because again, guys, this is not about fighting crime. This is only about giving themselves the excuse to take more power, to take more control, to send the military into these blue areas and blue states because they want to have a show of force. This is straight out of the authoritarian playbook. It is about time that people start speaking up against what is going on here. If this was happening in any other country, we would all be on the same page in calling this shit out. And the next thing that J.B. Pritzker here says, I am so glad he said, because it is about time for our media to stop playing this whole both sides nonsense. It's got to stop.
To the members of the press who are assembled here today and listening across the country, I am asking for your courage to tell it like it is. This is not a time to pretend here that there are two sides to this story. This is not a time to fall back into the reflexive crouch that I so often see, where the authoritarian creep by this administration is ignored in favor of some horse race piece on who will be helped politically by the president's actions. Donald Trump wants to use the military to occupy a U.S. city, punish his dissidents, and score political points. If this were happening in any other country, we would have no trouble calling it what it is, a dangerous power grab.
Yeah, a dangerous power grab. We are seeing them all over the country right now. We see Donald Trump calling up Greg Abbott down in Texas saying, hey, find me 5 seats. Now they're meddling with the redistricting over there to try to give themselves the advantage in the 2026 midterms because Donald Trump knew he was going to lose. We see the FBI and the DOJ being weaponized against Donald Trump's political enemies, or at least perceived enemies. We just had John Bolton's house raided. We see this administration going after universities, trying to meddle in their admissions process and their rulemaking process, all under the guise that it's somehow anti-Semitic. It is all a load of nonsense, guys. This is an administration that is trying to exert control over every single facet of our society. It should not be happening in the United States of America. And it was the shit that we were trying to warn people about before Donald Trump even got elected for a second time. Now you've got his administration who are making up stories about explosions in crime to send military personnel to places like Washington, D.C. Now he's threatening that Chicago will be next. He already did it to L.A. based on faulty premise of these out-of-control protests. This is what authoritarians do, guys. And it is about time that we see leaders like J.B. Pritzker starting to stand up and pushing back against this nonsense. He goes on to say that Donald Trump is just not welcome in my city.
Earlier today in the Oval Office, Donald Trump looked at the assembled cameras and asked for me personally to say, Mr. President, can you do us the honor of protecting our city? Instead, I say, Mr. President, do not come to Chicago. You are neither wanted here nor needed here. Your remarks about this effort over the last several weeks have betrayed a continuing slip in your mental faculties and are not fit for the auspicious office that you occupy. Most alarming, you seem to lack any appropriate concern as our commander-in-chief for the members of the military that you would so callously deploy as pawns in your ever more alarming grabs for power.
This is the exact energy we need right now, guys. And I know that going out there and doing a press conference, doing some sort of speech, that's not necessarily going to move the needle when it comes to fighting back against this administration. But we need to start rallying people on the ground to push back against the authoritarian power grab. That's the types of things that a press conference or going out there and making these grandiose speeches or these good speeches can achieve. We need to start rallying people behind the idea that we do not want a dictatorship in this country. We are not interested in the authoritarian power grab. We are not interested in Donald Trump being the king of the United States. And I think the thing that he said there at the end should not be lost on anybody. Just think about all of the people in the National Guard who are being ripped away from their homes to go patrol the streets of Washington, D.C. There is absolutely no respect for our men and women in uniform. These people have lives. These people have families. And now you've got a Trump administration that is ripping these people away from those lives to do a show of force in Washington, D.C., or do a show of force over in L.A. Is this really how we should be spending our resources? Is this really how we should be using the National Guard? Of course not. We should not be deploying the military against American citizens. That is just not what we do here. And even if there is crime that we can combat, we do not do it with the military. We can look into other programming options. We can look at trying to bolster police forces, but we don't send in the National Guard. We don't send in active duty Marines. This is the thing of authoritarians, guys. Donald Trump has been a wannabe authoritarian ever since he came onto the political scene back in 2015. We were warning about it years ago. We were warning about it before he got elected for a second time. And now that he has surrounded himself with a whole bunch of sycophants who are not going to push back against these authoritarian impulses, some of these things are coming to fruition. Now, the last thing that J.B. Pritzker has to say here, I think, is very, very important. Because as I said, we need to rally people to push back and stand up against this. And what J.B. Pritzker says here is very important when it comes to those matters.
But I know you, Chicago, and I know you are up to it. When you protest, do it peacefully. Be sure to continue Chicago's long tradition of nonviolent resistance. Remember that the members of the military and the National Guard who will be asked to walk these streets are, for the most part, here unwillingly. And remember that they can be court-martialed and their lives ruined if they resist deployment. Look to the members of the faith community standing behind me today for guidance on how to mobilize.
And that's exactly right, guys. If and when you go out there to protest, make sure you remain peaceful. Let's treat the National Guard with some respect. It's not the ICE agency that is being deployed to these city streets. It's people in the National Guard. Many of these people just sign up for the 2 weekends a month, 2 weeks a year, or whatever the saying goes. These are people who want to serve their country. They're not necessarily on the fascist movement, behind Donald Trump. A lot of these people have families. A lot of these people do not want to be deployed to the streets of America to do Donald Trump's bidding, to be political pawns in his authoritarian power grab. So if you go out to protest, make sure you're peaceful. Let's treat these guys with the respect that they are owed. And, we just have to rally as many people as possible. There needs to be millions upon millions upon millions of people on the streets. It is we, the people, who hold the actual power in this country. And if we just roll over and allow Donald Trump to continue this authoritarian power grab, we are going to be worse off for it. So again, guys, I don't know why we haven't seen more pushback sooner, but it needs to begin now. I think there's another big protest coming up in September. I will definitely let you guys know about that protest when I have got more details on it. But we've got to start rallying around the flag. We have got to start rallying around our fellow citizens. We have got to start pushing back against this fascist administration. We are the United States of America. We should be living in a thriving and healthy democracy. But instead, we've got Donald Trump, his addled old brain, who is more erratic, more authoritarian in his old age, and we are seeing things that I would have never thought of I would be seeing in this country. So again, guys, let's rally around each other. Let's join a protest movement. Get involved in your local community. Get involved with your local pro-democracy organizations. And let's actually push back against the authoritarian takeover. So I will leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We've got to build something here on the left that pushes back against this MAGA media machine that just launders all of this authoritarian nonsense for the Trump administration day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please do remember to smash that subscribe button. Of course, that is free. And if you guys want to help me and the Unfuck America Tour push back against the Charlie Kirks and Turning Point USAs of the world who are actually trying to normalize this authoritarian power grab, head over to unfuckamericatour.com. You can sign up to volunteer. You can sign up to donate. I've got a donate button that I will link in the description below as well. We're going to be traveling all around the country to not only sign up young voters, to register young voters, but we're also going to be providing an alternative vision for what this country could actually look like. And you best be damn sure it looks nothing like the fascist and authoritarian takeover that we are currently witnessing from this Trump administration. So I'll see you guys on the next one. I guess that's it for now.